So we're on our second week of having the new changes to Deep Desert, and it's a bit rough, to say the least. Let's address what we have and what motives, as players, we have to participate in endgame, or, well, a lack thereof currently. Currently, endgame is bleak. We squabble over resources to maintain expendable gear to go back and continue to squabble over said resources. Don't get me wrong, it's fun, but that fun gets dried up very quick, and that fun isn't suitable for everyone. That being said, Deep Desert's a free-for-all. We have Atreides attacking Atreides, Harco fighting Harco, and there's no repercussions. Now, obviously, you have some players who are like, I only attack Harkonnen players. Well, I mean, if you grinded enough, you could easily just go out there with the other house's variant. Why there isn't more faction-oriented PvP is beyond me. Never mind, when they originally marketed the game, they said that the game is going to become more of a political survival. I'm sorry, what? Where is that? Because I don't see it anywhere. And all I see is sweaty PvP mixed with some cordial players in a mild extraction environment. I don't see this political survival they spoke of, but I digress. So, how can this be remedied to suit everyone? I'd like to preface this by saying that these ideas were brainstormed on stream with my viewers, and I've just kind of compiled what we all have thought of into making something that would be suitable. So if you have ideas, you know what to do. Comment below, join me in the live, yada yada. They gave half the Deep Desert to PvE players, which is fine, I guess. Kind of pointless if we're being honest, because the first half of that Deep Desert is mostly barren, with very little resources or anything to procure. Sure, it gave more players access to the Deep Desert and made people less scared to venture out there, which is great, and we're seeing the positive results of that. More players in Deep Desert, I'm seeing much more population out there. It's nice, it's a lot more active, and it's so enjoyable. But this just shined a light on what the bigger issue at hand is, and retracting that change of half the Deep Desert being PvE is going to be like pulling teeth out. Unless they gave more faction-oriented PvP, which would make way more sense in the Dune universe and the overall dynamic needed for endgame. Probably something we should have gotten from the get-go, but again, I digress. So what would this look like? How would we give players more motivation? Make control points more than just Landsraad. Make it to where they control the sector. Make it to where if, let's say for example, an Atreides guild goes out and gains this control point, then they have control over that sector, let's say like H6 or whatever for example, and then other people a part of said faction can go out there and farm the resources they need and want. And then as a reward for this guild maintaining control over this control point, they get a percentage of what those farmers are getting while out there. Not taking resources from the farmers, but in addition. So like, let's say someone just farmed like 1k titanium, they keep that 1k, and the guild controlling that control point should get like 100, like 10% or something, in addition, out of the farmer's pocket. I can't believe I'm saying this, but they should take notes from Last Oasis, because this is kind of how controlling a tile worked, or server, in that game. So now, guilds have motivation to protect their farmers and smaller groups and said zone from opposing factions. If these farmers get attacked, they have incentive to protect them, because they're, oh hey, there goes my free easy mats, without forcing everybody to be in the same guild, as it feels more guild against guild right now rather than faction versus faction. With these changes, they should and would have to retract the PvE portion of the map back to the first row. Let's be real, miniature cities like this right next to the ring mouth is kinda dumb, especially given how hostile and dangerous the Deep Desert's supposed to be. While at the same time, this would play into that dynamic the creative director wanted initially, where players work collectively toward a common goal. Unless you have systems in place as guardrails to kind of direct your players to do that, you're going to have what we currently have. And it's everybody out for themselves. That's not going to incentivize anyone to work together. That being said, I still think it should be a friendly fire situation within these zones. This would provide another opportunity to potentially betray your faction. I don't think it should be, oh, you killed one player, but maybe if you gain a reputation for taking out your fellow Atreides or Harkonnen players, it should stack up against you with, let's say, a bounty system. So one kill, you get a bounty, and then the payout for that is X amount, and the more kills you accrue, the more stacks up against you, and the more incentive players have to go take you out. Maybe even giving more of a payout rather than just coin. It could also be spice, depending on how bad of a person you are. Said bounties could be posted in the bars of the major cities, so giving more incentive for players to actually go to the player hubs other than an auction house and a bank and to pay taxes, because no one's going to stay within the city for those reasons. If said bounty is completed, the individual who made the infraction is thrown into like maybe a gulag of sorts, or they have to go down some sort of quest line. I mean, the Harkonnens have the man trap already, so that would be, fairly easy to implement to a degree. Or, like I said, just a series of quests, whatever, something to put your character back in the good graces of whatever house you've betrayed. I mean, just this change alone would be huge and create so much more depth into the end game. Back to Landsraad. I mean, I'm solo. I don't mess with it too much, but outside perspective looking in, it seems very dumb. I hate it. I think there needs to be more to it. But what do we add to it? In addition to a negligible buff that we can vote on every week, maybe we should get access to something else, like, I don't know, an Imperial Harvester that we have to protect from other faction. And whoever's in the lead in Landsraad gains first control over said Harvester. You could have this Harvester pop up every Saturday and have it be an event that goes on for several hours. It should be a signed up event. Put it as another instanced location on the overworld map rather than it being in the deep desert. That way it's more easily controlled, and the sign-up system could be your gateway to being able to go in. So if you haven't signed up, you can't enter said location. Can't believe I'm saying this, but New World kind of had faction-oriented PvP done well to a degree. So a similar sign-up system would probably be good. Once it's up and running, it can be contested by houses. Whoever has control the longest during the event gets a much bigger reward of spice, which would be divvied up to those who signed up, but give a small amount to the losing side, dictated by how long they controlled the point. Just so people have incentive to participate even if they lose, This would also get the PvP sweats away from the farming locations in the deep desert, giving players who have no interest to participate in this harvester event some breathing room to go farm. Just these two massive changes, the harvester and control points in Landsraad, would bring a massively better dynamic to endgame, and would be far more interesting. Make everyone feel like their playstyle is contributing to a bigger and better goal for their house, kind of showing that there would be a political endgame like they advertised. It would give us something more in depth to do until they add more content. That wouldn't necessarily get boring after a while. With those changes though, the PvE zone in the deep desert should be retracted back to row A, but allow there to be a handful of titanium and stravidium ores, kind of like they have in row E currently. However, make them build blocked, so groups can't build over resources. That would be easier to control in the deep desert since the maps change every week. Having a base that we can't raid over a resource is incredibly annoying and should never be the situation at hand. Some of these changes would take quite a while to add, like the harvester, but everything else I feel like could be added in relatively quickly. That being said, try to spread this as much as possible, so maybe Funcom sees it and listens. I don't think Funcom will see it, but maybe if enough of us spread these ideas around, they might listen. Let me know what you guys think down below, or when I'm live. I feel like this would be the right move, but maybe I'm off base a bit. Naturally, I don't think I am, but I could be swayed to think otherwise. That's all I got. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time, or when I'm live.